In the cold expanse of space, on the outer spiral trade route near the Crimson Nebula, the stars shimmer like distant promises of safety. But for the crew of the Aurora's Dream, those stars were just a fleeting illusion. A seemingly helpless human cargo ship, traveling in peace, sends out a desperate distress signal, unaware that it is the bait in a far darker game. The Shadowclaw Consortium, a ruthless band of alien pirates known for their savagery and slavery, thinks they've found easy prey. But what they don't know is that the humans they are about to enslave are not the victims they expect. A secret lies hidden within the heart of Aurora's Dream, and when the predators call for help, they will discover too late that the hunters are about to become the hunted. The desperate signal. The cargo ship, Aurora's Dream, drifted through space like a wounded animal, its hull scarred by plasma burns, and its distress beacon crying out across the void. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing 3 Krillian raider ships closing in on their position. Her crew moved around her with practiced efficiency, but there was something different about them. Something that didn't quite fit with their roles as simple cargo haulers. The Crimson Nebula stretched out before them, its red and orange gases creating a maze of hiding spots and sensor shadows. It was the perfect place for pirates to operate, and the Shadowclaw Consortium had made it their hunting ground for over a decade. Merchant ships that entered these regions often never left, their crews sold into slavery across the galaxy, while their cargo disappeared into black market networks. Elena's communications officer, a young woman named Lisa Park, looked up from her station with carefully practiced fear in her eyes. "Captain, the lead ship is hailing us. They're demanding immediate surrender." Elena nodded slowly, playing her part perfectly. "Put them through, Lisa. Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Commander Thrak of the Shadowclaw Consortium. The Krillian was an impressive sight, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished obsidian. His species had evolved as apex predators on a world of endless twilight, and they had brought that hunting instinct to the stars. Thrak's reputation was legendary throughout the sector. He had never failed to capture a ship, and his crews were known for their ruthless efficiency. "Human vessel," Thrak began, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never been defeated. "This is Commander Thrak of the Shadowclaw Consortium. Your ship is now our property. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick." Elena stepped forward, allowing her voice to shake slightly. "Please, Commander. We're just cargo haulers. We have families back on Earth. Surely we can work something out." Thrak's laugh was like breaking glass. "Humans always try to bargain. Your cargo manifest shows you're carrying rare earth metals and quantum processors. Very valuable. Your crew will fetch good prices in the slave markets of the Outer Rim. There is nothing to negotiate." Behind Elena, her chief engineer, Dr. James Chen, worked quietly at his station. To any observer, he appeared to be running standard diagnostic checks on their damaged systems. In reality, he was activating protocols that had been dormant for months. His fingers moved across hidden control panels, bringing weapon systems online that weren't supposed to exist on a civilian cargo vessel. The first Krillian ship moved closer, its docking clamps extending like metallic claws. Elena could see boarding pods being prepared, each one carrying a squad of heavily armed pirates. The Shadowclaw Consortium was known for their boarding tactics. They would swarm aboard, overwhelm the crew with superior numbers and firepower, then sort through the survivors to decide who was worth keeping alive. "Docking in 30 seconds, reported their navigator, a calm-voiced man named Rodriguez. "Their boarding parties are ready to launch." Elena turned to her crew, seeing the same hidden readiness in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. These weren't frightened cargo haulers. They were members of the Human Defense Coalition's Special Operations Division, and they had been hunting the Shadowclaw Consortium for 3 years. The Aurora's Dream wasn't really a cargo ship. It was a wolf in sheep's clothing, designed to look helpless while carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. "Remember," Elena said quietly, "we need Thrak alive. Intelligence wants to know where their main base is located. The ship shuddered as the Krillian vessel made contact. Elena could hear the whine of cutting tools as the pirates began to breach their outer hull. According to plan, her crew had left several weak points in their defenses, making it easy for the pirates to board. They wanted the enemy to feel confident, to believe they were in control. Thrak appeared on screen again, his 4 arms gesturing triumphantly. "Your hull has been breached, humans. My warriors are coming aboard. Do not resist, and perhaps some of you will live long enough to see the slave markets." Elena smiled, and for the first time, her expression was completely genuine. "Thank you for the warning, Commander. We'll be ready for them." Something in her tone made Thrak pause. For a moment, his confident expression faltered, as if he had noticed something that didn't fit with his expectations. But it was too late. His boarding parties were already inside the Aurora's Dream, moving through corridors that had been carefully designed to channel them exactly where the humans wanted them to go. The first group of Krillian warriors entered the main cargo bay, expecting to find terrified crew members hiding behind containers of valuable minerals. Instead, they found Dr. Chen standing calmly in the center of the bay, his hands folded behind his back. The pirates raised their weapons, shouting orders in their harsh language. Chen didn't move. He simply spoke one word: Zara. The ship's AI responded instantly. Hidden panels slid open throughout the cargo bay, revealing an arsenal of human military hardware. Automated defense turrets emerged from the walls, their targeting systems locking onto the confused pirates in milliseconds. The cargo containers themselves split apart, revealing they had been empty shells concealing combat drones and weapon emplacements. But the real surprise was Chen himself. The mild-mannered engineer reached into his jacket and pulled out a device that looked like a simple data pad. When he activated it, his entire body seemed to shimmer and change. The illusion of a harmless scientist fell away, revealing the powered combat armor that had been hidden beneath holographic projectors. Chen wasn't just an engineer. He was a former human Marine Corps demolitions expert, and he had been spoiling for a fight. The battle in the cargo bay lasted less than 30 seconds. The Krillian boarding party had been equipped to handle frightened civilians, not military-grade defense systems operated by combat veterans. Their energy weapons barely scratched the human armor, while Chen's response was devastatingly precise. When the smoke cleared, half the pirates were unconscious, and the other half were calling for reinforcement. Similar scenes played out throughout the ship. Every corridor had become a killing ground, every room a carefully prepared trap. The humans moved with the coordinated precision of a military unit, because that's exactly what they were. Each crew member was a specialist in their field, chosen for this mission because of their skills in both deception and combat. On the bridge, Elena watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The first boarding party had been neutralized without casualties on their side. The second and third waves were encountering similar problems. Commander Thrak's forces were learning the hard way that appearances could be deceiving. "Captain," Lisa called out, her earlier fear replaced by the cool professionalism of a trained communications specialist. "We're detecting additional ships approaching. Looks like Thrak called for backup." Elena studied the sensor readings. 6 more Shadowclaw ships were converging on their position, including what appeared to be their mobile command vessel. This was better than they had hoped. Intelligence had estimated that it would take months to track down all the major Shadowclaw assets. Now they were all coming to one location, drawn by the prospect of easy prey. "Perfect," Elena said. "Zara, transmit our real beacon. Authorization code Phoenix 77. The ship's AI acknowledged the command. Across subspace, a new signal began broadcasting. This one wasn't a distress call. It was a military identification beacon, transmitting on frequencies used by the Human Defense Coalition. Any human vessel within 10 light-years would receive the message and understand its meaning. Enemy contact. Request immediate assistance. Commander Thrak was beginning to realize that something had gone terribly wrong. His boarding parties were being systematically destroyed by what should have been a helpless cargo crew. The human ship was revealing defensive capabilities that shouldn't exist on a civilian vessel. Most disturbing of all, His sensors were detecting energy signatures that suggested the humans had military-grade weapons hidden throughout their ship. "What is the meaning of this?" Thrak demanded over the communication channel. "You are civilian cargo haulers. Where did you get military equipment?" Elena's smile was cold and predatory. "Did you really think we would send undefended ships through your territory, Commander? We've been watching the Shadowclaw Consortium for years. We know about your slave markets, your attacks on peaceful merchants, your raids on colony worlds. We've been waiting for the right moment to introduce ourselves properly." The truth hit Thrak like a physical blow. This wasn't a random encounter. The humans had deliberately entered Shadowclaw territory, broadcasting false cargo manifests and pretending to be helpless merchants. They had used themselves as bait to draw out the pirates, and he had taken it completely. "Your military," Thrak said, his voice filled with growing alarm. "This is a trap." "Very good, Commander," Elena replied, "though I prefer to think of it as a hunting expedition. You see, humans have a saying, play with fire, and you get burned. You've been preying on our merchant ships for too long. It's time to pay the price." Throughout the Shadowclaw fleet, alarms began to sound. Their sensors were detecting massive energy signatures emerging from hyperspace. Whatever was coming was big, very big, and it was heading straight for them. Elena watched the tactical display as the first human warship dropped out of hyperspace. The UHS Retribution was a Sovereign-class battlecruiser, bristling with enough firepower to destroy an entire planet. But it wasn't alone. One by one, more ships appeared. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, each one carrying the distinctive markings of the Human Defense Coalition's 7th Battle Fleet. "My God," whispered one of the Krillian officers on Thrak's bridge. "How many ships do they have?" Elena could hear the panic in their voices through the open communication channel. She decided to answer the question. "The 7th Battle Fleet consists of 47 vessels, Commander. Each one is crewed by humans who have sworn to protect civilian shipping lanes from pirates like you. They've been waiting just outside sensor range for our signal." The lead Krillian ship tried to break away, but it was too late. The human fleet had positioned itself perfectly, blocking every escape route. The Shadowclaw Consortium, which had terrorized this region for a decade, was surrounded by the most powerful military force in known space. "This is Admiral Sarah Kane of the Human Defense Coalition," a new voice announced over all frequencies. "Shadowclaw vessels, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." Commander Thrak stared at the tactical display in horror. His small fleet of pirates was facing a human battle group that could level entire star systems. They had fallen into a trap that had been months in the planning, and there was no way out. Elena's voice cut through his despair. "You wanted to hunt humans, Commander. Congratulations. You found us." The hunters become the hunted. The space around the Crimson Nebula had become a cage of metal and death. Admiral Sarah Kane stood on the bridge of the UHS Retribution, watching the Shadowclaw fleet with the cold patience of a seasoned predator. At 53, she had spent more than half her life in space, fighting pirates, raiders, and any other threat to human civilization. Her gray hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her weathered face bore the scars of a dozen battles. She was known throughout the fleet as Iron Sarah, a commander who never showed mercy to those who preyed on the innocent. "Fleet status report," Kane ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "All ships in position, Admiral," replied her tactical officer, Commander Marcus Webb. "The Shadowclaw vessels are completely surrounded. They have no escape routes." Kane nodded, studying the enemy formation. 7 Krillian ships hung in space like trapped animals, their weapons charged but useless against such overwhelming odds. She had been hunting Commander Thrak for 3 years, following a trail of destroyed merchant vessels and enslaved crews across half the galaxy. The Aurora's dream operation had been a calculated risk, using Elena's team as bait to draw out the entire Shadowclaw leadership. Open a channel to Captain Vasquez, Kane commanded. Elena's face appeared on the main screen, her expression calm despite the fact that her ship was still surrounded by hostile vessels. Behind her, Kane could see the systematic efficiency with which her crew was processing their captured prisoners. The Krillian boarding parties hadn't known what hit them. "Admiral," Elena said with a slight smile. "Package delivered as requested. We have 37 prisoners, including several high-ranking Shadow Claw officers. Commander Thrak is still on his ship, but he's not going anywhere." "Excellent work, Captain. Any casualties on your side?" "None." Chen took a plasma graze to his shoulder, but he's already back on duty. The doctor says he'll have a scar to impress the ladies with. Kane allowed herself a small smile. Elena's team was the best in the business, specialists in deep cover operations, who could maintain their civilian identities for months while gathering intelligence on pirate activities. They had spent 6 months posing as cargo haulers, mapping Shadowclaw territory and identifying key targets. "What's the status of their communications?" Kane asked. "Zara intercepted several encrypted transmissions before we jammed their systems," Elena replied. "They managed to send word to at least 3 other Shadowclaw cells before we shut them down. Intelligence estimates we have maybe 6 hours before those cells realize something's wrong." Kane turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Torres, any response to our demands for surrender?" "Negative, Admiral. The Shadowclaw ships are maintaining radio silence. Their weapons are still powered, but they're not making any aggressive moves." Kane understood the psychology at work. Commander Thrak was trapped, but he was also a predator who had never been caged before. He would be looking for any opportunity to escape, or at least take some humans down with him. Pirates like the Shadowclaw Consortium didn't surrender easily. They knew that capture meant execution for their crimes. "Admiral," Webb called out from his station, "sensors are detecting movement from the Shadowclaw command ship. It looks like they're trying to overload their reactor." Kane's expression hardened. A reactor overload would destroy Thrak's ship and everything within a 5-kilometer radius, including the Aurora's Dream. It was a desperate move, but typical of pirates who preferred death to capture. "Elena, you need to get clear of that ship immediately," Kane ordered. But Elena shook her head. "Negative, Admiral. If Thrak destroys his ship, we lose everything. His command vessel contains the location of every Shadowclaw base, their slave market contacts, and their financial networks. Without that intelligence, we'll only be cutting off one tentacle of a much larger organization." Kane found herself facing an impossible choice. She could order Elena's team to retreat, preserving their lives but losing the intelligence that could cripple the entire Shadowclaw Consortium. Or she could risk her best operatives in an attempt to board the Krillian command ship before Thrak could destroy it. "Chen to Admiral Kane," came a new voice over the communication channel. "I have a solution, but you're not going to like it." Kane sighed. Dr. James Chen was brilliant, but his solutions tended to involve massive explosions and significant property damage. "Let's hear it, Doctor." "The Krillian reactor is an old-model fusion plant, probably captured from a cargo hauler about 10 years ago. I can disrupt their overload sequence with a focused electromagnetic pulse, but I'll need to get within 50 meters of their ship to do it." "Absolutely not," Kane said immediately. "That would put you directly in the path of their defensive weapons." "Not if we do it right," Chen replied. "Elena's team has been studying Krillian psychology for months. We know they're proud, aggressive, and they value personal combat above everything else. Thrak won't pass up a chance to face a human warrior in single combat." Kane began to understand what Chen was proposing, and she didn't like it at all. "You want to challenge him to a duel." "It's the perfect distraction," Chen said. "While Thrak is focused on proving his superiority, I can get close enough to his ship to disable the reactor. 2 birds, 1 stone. Elena's voice cut in. "Admiral, Chen's plan could work. Krillian honor codes require them to accept single combat challenges from enemy warriors. If we frame it correctly, Thrak won't be able to refuse without losing face in front of his crew." Kane weighed the options quickly. Chen's plan was risky, but it offered the best chance of capturing the Shadowclaw intelligence intact. And if they failed, she still had enough firepower to destroy the pirate fleet before they could escape. Approved, Kane said finally. But Chen, you take every precaution. I don't want to explain to your mother why her son died playing hero in a nebula. Chen's laughter came through the speakers. Roger that, Admiral. Launching in 5 minutes. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as Chen prepared for his mission. He donned a full suit of human Marine Corps power armor, its servo-assisted joints and integrated weapon systems making him the equal of any 3 Krillian warriors. But the real advantage was psychological. Humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy as relentless fighters who never gave up, never retreated, and never showed mercy to those who threatened the innocent. Elena opened a channel to the Shadowclaw command ship. Commander Thrak, this is Captain Vasquez. I have a proposition for you. Thrak's image appeared on screen, his 4 arms moving in agitation. What could you possibly offer me, human? We are surrounded by your fleet. There is no escape. There's always a choice, Commander, Elena replied. You can die like a coward, hiding behind your ship's defenses. Or you can face one of our warriors in single combat. Winner takes all. Kane watched Thrak's expression change as the challenge sank in. She could see the internal struggle playing out behind his obsidian features. His rational mind knew this was a trap, but his predator instincts were responding to the challenge. Krillian culture valued personal prowess above all else. A warrior who refused single combat would be seen as weak by his own crew. What are the terms? Thrak asked finally. Simple, Elena said. One of our warriors against you. Hand-to-hand combat. No weapons except what you can carry. If you win, my ship surrenders, and my crew becomes your slaves. If our warrior wins, your fleet surrenders and submits to Human Defense Coalition justice. Thrak's laugh was like grinding stone. You would risk everything on single combat? Your species truly is as foolish as we believed. Do you accept the challenge? Elena pressed. There was a long pause as Thrak considered. Kane could see him weighing his options, looking for any advantage. Finally, his pride won out over his caution. I accept, Thrak said. But I choose the location, the cargo bay of my ship. And if any other humans attempt to board, the deal is void. Agreed, Elena replied. Our warrior will transfer over in 10 minutes. The communication ended, and Kane turned to watch Chen's final preparations. The engineer-turned-warrior was checking his equipment with the methodical precision of someone who understood that one mistake could mean death. His armor was painted in the dark blue of human special operations, with unit insignia that marked him as a veteran of a dozen campaigns. Chen, Kane said privately, are you sure about this? Chen looked up, his scarred face serious behind his helmet's visor. Admiral, I've been hunting pirates for 15 years. I've seen what they do to civilian crews, the slave markets they supply, the families they destroy. Thrak isn't just a pirate, he's a monster, and monsters need to be put down. Kane nodded, understanding the determination in his voice. Chen had lost his sister to Krillian slavers 8 years ago. This mission was personal for him in a way that went beyond military duty. Bring me his head, Kane said simply. Chen's transport shuttle launched from the Aurora's Dream, crossing the space between the human and Krillian ships like a metal comet. Kane watched the tactical display, noting how the Shadowclaw vessels tracked the shuttle's progress with their weapons but didn't fire. Thrak was keeping his word about the single combat, at least for now. The shuttle docked with the Krillian command ship, and Kane lost contact with Chen as he entered enemy territory. Now all she could do was wait and trust in the skills of one of humanity's finest warriors. Inside the Shadowclaw vessel, Chen moved through corridors that reeked of violence and despair. The walls were decorated with trophies from dozens of raids, personal belongings taken from murdered crews and destroyed ships. Each item was a reminder of why this mission mattered, why the Shadowclaw Consortium had to be stopped. He entered the cargo bay to find Commander Thrak waiting for him. The Krillian was impressive even without his weapons, standing 8 feet tall with 4 arms that ended in claws sharp enough to rend metal. His obsidian skin bore ritual scars that marked him as a veteran of countless battles. "So," Thrak said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space, "the humans send an engineer to fight a warrior. Your species truly has no understanding of combat." Chen removed his helmet, revealing a face that bore its own collection of scars. "I'm more than just an engineer, Thrak, but you'll find that out soon enough." The two warriors circled each other, predator and prey switching roles with each step. Chen's armor gave him strength and speed, but Thrak had 4 arms and natural weapons that could pierce human flesh. It would be a battle between technology and evolution, between human determination and alien savagery. They clashed in the center of the bay, Chen's powered fists meeting Thrak's claws in a symphony of sparks and violence. The Krillian was fast, faster than any human had a right to expect, but Chen had been fighting aliens for years. He knew their patterns, their weaknesses, their tells. As they fought, Chen's real mission continued. His armor's sensors were mapping the ship's interior, locating the reactor chamber, and identifying the quickest route to reach it. When Thrak overextended himself in a particularly vicious attack, Chen saw his chance. A carefully placed punch to Thrak's solar plexus sent the alien staggering backward. Chen used the momentary distraction to activate a hidden device in his armor, sending an electromagnetic pulse racing through the ship's systems. The Krillian reactor's overload sequence stuttered and died, its control system scrambled by human technology. "Impossible," Thrak gasped, realizing what had happened. "You cheated." Chen smiled grimly. "I told you I was more than just an engineer. I'm also a demolitions expert, and I just disabled your reactor." The rest of the fight was academic. Thrak, weakened by Chen's punch and demoralized by the failure of his final gambit, fell to a series of precise strikes that left him unconscious on the deck. Chen stood over his defeated opponent, breathing heavily but victorious. "Admiral Kane," he reported over his communicator. "Package secured, the reactor is stable, and Commander Thrak is in custody." Kane's relief was evident in her voice. "Outstanding work, Chen. Prepare for pickup. We have a schedule to keep." As Chen waited for extraction, he looked around the cargo bay one more time. Soon, all of this would be evidence in war crimes tribunals. The Shadowclaw Consortium's reign of terror was over, and the galaxy would be a safer place for innocent travelers. But Kane knew their work was far from finished. Intelligence had identified 3 other Shadowclaw cells operating in distant sectors, each one a potential threat to human shipping. The hunt would continue, because that's what humans did. They protected the innocent, punished the guilty, and never gave up the fight for justice. The galaxy was about to learn that when you threatened human lives, you didn't just face human ships or human weapons, you faced human determination, and that was the most dangerous force in the known universe. Apex Predators Unleashed. The command center of the UHS Retribution hummed with controlled energy as Admiral Kane reviewed the intelligence extracted from Commander Thrak's captured vessel. The holographic displays showed a network of pirate operations that stretched across 17 star systems, involving not just the Shadowclaw Consortium, but dozens of affiliated criminal organizations. What they had discovered was bigger than anyone had imagined. "Admiral," Commander Webb reported from his station, "we've confirmed the locations of 12 major Shadowclaw facilities, 3 primary slave markets, 4 weapon caches, 2 repair stations, and 3 command bunkers. The scale of their operation is staggering." Kane studied the tactical projections with growing determination. Each facility represented hundreds of innocent lives lost, families destroyed, and communities terrorized. The Shadowclaw Consortium hadn't just been raiding ships. They had been running a galaxy-spanning criminal empire that traded in human misery. "What's our fleet status?" Kane asked. "The 7th Battle Fleet is at full readiness," Webb replied. 47 ships, including 12 heavy cruisers, and the carrier Valiant with her fighter squadrons. We also have authorization to coordinate with the 3rd and 9th Fleets for simultaneous operations. Captain Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen, transmitting from the Aurora's Dream. Her team had spent the last 6 hours interrogating captured Shadowclaw officers, extracting every piece of information they could about the pirate network. "Admiral," Elena reported, "we've broken their communication codes. Dr. Chen's analysis of their computer systems has given us complete access to their operational networks. We know where every Shadowclaw asset is located, and more importantly, we know their schedules." Kane leaned forward. "Schedules?" "They're planning a major operation for tomorrow," Elena explained. "A coordinated attack on 3 refugee convoys carrying survivors from the Centauri conflicts. Over 15,000 civilians, mostly families fleeing the war zones. The Shadowclaw Consortium is planning to capture them all for the slave markets." The bridge fell silent. Even the most hardened military officers felt their blood run cold at the thought of 15,000 innocent civilians being condemned to slavery. These weren't military targets or armed merchants. They were refugees, people who had already lost everything and were looking for safety. Kane's voice, when she spoke, was as cold as the void between stars. "That's not going to happen. Webb, Signal Fleet Command. I want authorization for Operation Cleansing Fire." Webb's fingers moved across his control panel, sending the encrypted message to Human Defense Coalition headquarters. Operation Cleansing Fire was the military's most aggressive anti-piracy protocol, reserved for threats that posed existential dangers to civilian populations. It meant no quarter, no mercy, and complete destruction of the enemy. The response came back within minutes. "Admiral," Webb announced, "Operation Cleansing Fire is authorized. You have full military authority to eliminate the Shadowclaw Consortium by any means necessary." Kane stood up, her expression grim with purpose. "Signal the 3rd and 9th Fleets. I want simultaneous strikes on every Shadowclaw facility. No one escapes. No one survives to rebuild their organization. We end this today." Throughout the fleet, preparation for battle took on a different character. This wasn't just military action. This was righteous vengeance for every innocent life the Shadowclaw Consortium had destroyed. Human crews worked with the methodical efficiency of a species that had evolved to be apex predators, and now they were preparing to hunt. Dr. Chen appeared on the bridge, still wearing his combat armor from his encounter with Commander Thrak. His face bore fresh bruises, but his eyes burned with satisfaction. "Admiral, I've finished analyzing their computer systems. The Shadowclaw Consortium has been operating for 12 years. Conservative estimates put their victim count at over 50,000 sentient beings murdered, enslaved, or disappeared." Kane's jaw tightened. 50,000 lives. Each one representing a family destroyed, a future stolen, a dream ended by pirate greed. She had seen the horrors of war, but this was something worse. This was systematic predation on an industrial scale. "Chen, I want you to prepare a special transmission," Kane ordered. "Something that will be heard across the entire galaxy. It's time to remind everyone why humans are called Deathworlders." The first strike came at dawn, local time, on the Shadowclaw base orbiting Kepler 442. The pirate facility was a converted asteroid mining station, hollowed out and equipped with weapon systems and slave holding cells. Over 3,000 captured civilians were imprisoned there, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. The human attack was swift and surgical. The heavy cruiser Devastator dropped out of hyperspace and unleashed a barrage of kinetic penetrators that shattered the station's defenses in seconds. Marine assault shuttles followed immediately, their crews trained specifically in hostage rescue operations. "This is Colonel Martinez to all Shadowclaw personnel," the Marine commander broadcast on all frequencies. "You are surrounded. Release your prisoners immediately or face the consequences." The pirates' response was to threaten the civilian hostages. It was their last mistake. Human special forces had spent decades perfecting the art of hostage rescue. They moved through the station like ghosts, using advanced sensors to locate every pirate and every civilian. Their weapons were programmed with friend or foe identification systems that could distinguish between targets in milliseconds. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, every Shadowclaw pirate on the station was dead, and every civilian hostage was free. The rescue teams had accomplished something that should have been impossible: liberating 3,000 prisoners without a single innocent casualty. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human fleets struck Shadowclaw facilities simultaneously. The pirates had built their empire on the assumption that they could hide in the shadows, that civilized species wouldn't have the will or the capability to hunt them down. They were learning how wrong they had been. At the main Shadowclaw command center on Kronos Station, Supreme Commander Vex received reports of the attacks with growing horror. His criminal empire was being systematically dismantled by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Ship after ship, base after base, his organization was being destroyed with surgical precision. "How many facilities have we lost?" Vex demanded of his surviving lieutenants. "All of them," came the terrified reply. "Every single Shadowclaw installation is either destroyed or under human control. Our fleet assets are scattered. Most of our ships have been captured or destroyed." Vex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than 24 hours, the humans had located and eliminated an organization that had taken 12 years to build. It wasn't just military might. It was intelligence, coordination, and a level of determination that bordered on the obsessive. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's from the human fleet." The main screen activated, showing Admiral Kane standing on the bridge of the Retribution. Behind her, the viewer could see the controlled chaos of a military operation in full swing. Officers moved with practiced efficiency, their faces set with grim purpose. "This is Admiral Sarah Kane of the Human Defense Coalition," Kane began, her voice carrying across the galaxy. "I am speaking to every pirate, raider, and criminal organization that has preyed upon innocent civilians. Today, we have eliminated the Shadowclaw Consortium completely. 57 vessels destroyed, 12 facilities captured, and over 15,000 hostages liberated." The transmission switched to footage from the rescue operations. Civilians who had been imprisoned for months walked free, reuniting with families who had thought them dead. Children who had been destined for slave markets instead found themselves in the protective custody of human Marine Corps medics. The images spoke louder than any words about what humanity fought to protect. Kane's voice continued over the footage. "The Shadowclaw Consortium believed they could hide in the darkness between stars, preying on the innocent while civilized worlds looked the other way. They were wrong. Humanity does not forget. We do not forgive. And we never stop hunting those who threaten the peace." The Admiral's image returned to the screen, her cold blue eyes staring directly into the camera. "To every criminal organization watching this transmission, understand this. We know who you are. We know where you operate. We know your methods, your contacts, and your weaknesses. The only question is whether you choose to surrender now, or whether you prefer to be hunted down like the animals you are." Supreme Commander Vex felt his world crumbling around him. The humans weren't just announcing their victory, they were declaring war on every criminal enterprise in the galaxy. And given what they had just accomplished against the Shadowclaw Consortium, their threat was far from empty. "Sir," one of his remaining officers whispered, "what are your orders?" Vex looked around his command center, seeing the fear in his subordinates' eyes. These were hardened criminals who had spent their lives intimidating others through violence and terror. Now they were the ones who were afraid, and with good reason. The humans had demonstrated that nowhere in the galaxy was safe from their reach. "Abandon the station," Vex ordered. "Scatter the fleet. Maybe some of us can escape before they find this location." But even as he gave the order, Vex knew it was too late. The humans had captured Commander Thrak alive, along with dozens of other high-ranking Shadowclaw officers. They would have extracted every piece of information, every secret, every hidden location. There would be no escape, no safe harbor, no place to hide. Admiral Kane's transmission was reaching every inhabited world in the galaxy, carried by news networks and military channels alike. In the halls of government and the backrooms of criminal enterprises, beings were learning that humanity had just demonstrated capabilities that most had never suspected. On the bridge of the Retribution, Kane watched the intelligence reports flowing in from across the galaxy. Already, 3 minor pirate groups had contacted Human Defense Coalition representatives offering to surrender. Two slave trading cartels had announced they were retiring from business, and several corrupt officials who had been cooperating with criminal organizations were requesting protection in exchange for cooperation. Admiral, Commander Webb reported, we're receiving priority communications from 17 different worlds. Local governments are requesting Human Defense Coalition assistance with their own piracy problems. Kane nodded with satisfaction. Fear was a powerful motivator, and the galaxy's criminal organizations were finally learning to fear humanity. But more importantly, the innocent civilians who lived in fear of pirates and raiders were learning that someone was willing to fight for them. Dr. Chen appeared on the bridge, his combat armor replaced by a standard duty uniform. Admiral, we've finished processing the liberated civilians. Medical teams report that most are in good health, considering their ordeal. We'll need to coordinate with civilian authorities for their repatriation. What about the intelligence we gathered? Kane asked. Beyond anything we hoped for, Chen replied. The Shadowclaw computer systems contain detailed records of their entire criminal network. We have names, locations, financial records, and communication protocols for dozens of affiliated organizations. Intelligence estimates we can roll up 60% of the sector's criminal activity within the next 6 months. Kane allowed herself a rare smile. Outstanding work, Doctor. See that the information is distributed to all appropriate agencies. It's time to clean house. The aftermath of Operation Cleansing Fire would be felt for years to come. The Shadowclaw Consortium's complete destruction sent shockwaves through criminal organizations across the galaxy. The myth of safe havens and untouchable criminal empires died with Thrax's fleet, replaced by the cold reality that humanity was watching, waiting, and willing to act. Elena Vasquez stood in the cargo bay of the Aurora's Dream, watching as the last of the liberated hostages boarded transport ships bound for their home worlds. Many of them stopped to thank her and her crew, not knowing that the cargo haulers who had saved them were actually elite military operatives. Captain, Dr. Chen said, joining her at the observation window. Intelligence is already planning our next operation. Word is there's a Vorthak slave ring operating in the Beta Centauri sector. Elena nodded. The work would never truly be finished. As long as there were those who preyed on the innocent, there would be a need for hunters to track them down. How long until we're back under cover? 2 weeks for repairs and refitting, Chen replied. Then it's back to playing helpless merchants. Elena smiled. She had spent her entire adult life hunting pirates and criminals, and she wouldn't have it any other way. Each mission saved lives. Each victory made the galaxy a little safer for honest beings trying to make their way in the universe. On distant worlds across the galaxy, the message was being received loud and clear. Criminal organizations were reassessing their operations, weighing profits against the possibility of attracting human attention. Some chose to disband entirely. Others moved their operations to distant sectors, hoping to escape notice. A few, drunk on their own power or convinced of their invincibility, chose to ignore the warning. They would learn, eventually. Humanity had infinite patience when it came to protecting the innocent, and infinite resources to dedicate to the hunt. Every pirate captured provided information about others. Every facility raided revealed new targets. The network of criminals that had plagued civilized space for decades was beginning to unravel, pulled apart by human determination and technological superiority. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching the Aurora's Dream prepare for its next mission. Elena's team would return to their cover identities, once again posing as vulnerable merchants while they hunted their next target. It was dangerous work, requiring them to put themselves in harm's way again and again. But it was necessary work, and Kane knew they would do it willingly. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless worlds and trillions of sentient beings. Most of them were peaceful, trying to build better lives for themselves and their families. But scattered among them were predators, beings who chose to profit from others' misery. For too long, those predators had operated with impunity, protected by distance, corruption, and the assumption that civilized species lacked the will to fight back. Today, that assumption had died. The Shadowclaw Consortium was gone, erased from existence by human military might and determination. Their bases were captured, their ships destroyed, their leaders dead or imprisoned. Most importantly, their victims were free. Kane's communicator chimed with an incoming message from Fleet Command. "Admiral," came the voice of her superior, "outstanding work on Operation Cleansing Fire. The civilian authorities are calling it the most successful anti-piracy operation in galactic history." "Thank you, sir," Kane replied. "But this is just the beginning. We have intelligence on dozens of other criminal organizations. With your permission, I'd like to expand operations." "Permission granted, Admiral. The President himself has authorized unlimited resources for anti-piracy operations. It seems the liberation of 15,000 hostages has focused political attention on the problem." Kane smiled grimly. Politicians might come and go, but the mission remained constant. Protect the innocent, punish the guilty, and never give up the fight for justice. It was a simple philosophy, but one that had made humanity the most feared species among the galaxy's criminal element. As the human fleet prepared for its next operation, word of their victory spread across the galaxy. In refugee camps and civilian shelters, beings who had lived in fear of pirates began to hope. In the corridors of power, officials who had ignored the piracy problem suddenly found resources to address it. And in the hidden bases and criminal strongholds scattered across known space, predators began to look over their shoulders, wondering when the humans would come for them. The distress call that had started it all, the fake beacon broadcast by Commander Thrak to lure in helpless victims, had indeed gone wrong. But not in the way the pirates had expected. Instead of bringing them easy prey, it had brought them face to face with the apex predators of the galaxy. Humanity had answered the call, not as victims, but as hunters. And the hunt had only just begun. The galaxy would never be the same. Where once pirates had roamed freely, preying on the weak and defenseless, now they faced an implacable enemy that would never stop, never tire, and never show mercy to those who threatened the innocent. The age of safe piracy was over. The age of human justice had begun. And in the cold depths of space, Admiral Sarah Kane smiled as she planned humanity's next move in the endless war against those who would prey upon the innocent. The humans had shown what they were capable of when aroused to anger. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they could accomplish when they set their minds to protecting the peace. The hunt continued, and humanity would not rest until every innocent being in the galaxy could travel the stars without fear. It was a promise written in the wreckage of the Shadowclaw Consortium, sealed with the blood of pirates, and guaranteed by the determination of a species that had evolved to be the ultimate survivors. The Deathworlders had spoken, the galaxy had listened, and peace, enforced by human strength and human will, began to spread across the stars.